to the Web3 Prof Podcast.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with Mike Rogers, who is the head of compliance at Netcoins. Mike, thanks for being with me here today.
Thanks for inviting me.
So tell us, how did you get into the world of Web3?
Sure. So I've been in the financial industry for 19 years. In January 2022, I was called by Netcoins. They needed compliance people to take over as the compliance program. The CCO was leaving, Chief Compliance Officer was leaving in June, and they wanted me to replace him. So I came in, learned the industry for 5 months, and then he left in June.
So when you say compliance, can you kind of break down exactly what that means and why that's important in the world of crypto?
Yeah. Crypto's a funny thing. It needs to evolve in terms of what it started out as. People like crypto because it was anonymous sometimes, and a lot of bad people were using it in the beginning. For it to become more mainstream, compliance needs to be regulated. In the industry needs to be regulated. So compliance is regulation within the industry, within the company, so people can be safe and comfortable on a platform to use the coins.
This is the Web3 Prof coming at you. I just want to take a minute to thank one of our sponsors. They make this podcast possible. The cryptoboutique.ca. They're a really hot website, sell lots of cool stuff related to crypto, books, clothing, most importantly, cold storage wallets. I encourage you to check out the cryptoboutique.ca. And one of the products that they sell, which is the Cool Wallet Pro. It's a thin credit card sized device that is cold storage. It takes your keys, your tokens, removes them from the internet and the security issues that you may face, and allows you to hold those keys so that no one can take your coins from you. You know what they say? Not your keys, not your coins. Check out the cryptoboutique.ca and the Cool Wallet Pro. Thank you. So when we think of compliance, so then you're basically following the laws of various different jurisdictions so that people can use your Netcoins product in British Columbia or Florida or wherever it may be.
Right.
So now one thing that people love about crypto is kind of the fact that it is pseudo-anonymous.
Yeah.
We can, if I know your address, I know what you've done.
Yep.
But if I don't know your address, we can kind of, nobody knows who that is. So are companies like Netcoins and other centralized organizations, are they fighting against kind of one of the core tenets of crypto?
No. I mean, that's what people like about crypto, part of it.
Yeah.
One thing that crypto needs to do is get more mainstream users. And as the industry evolves, that's what we're going to see.
Right.
The use mostly by people that want to be entirely anonymous is part of the appeal of crypto. But that doesn't mean that everybody wants to be anonymous because they're bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, that's exactly right. So how do we get mainstream adoption in the world of crypto? So in your experience as the head of compliance for Netcoins, what are the things that need to happen in order for us to kind of see more people get involved?
Regulation is huge, and it's here in Canada. Canada is one of the first countries that have really adopted regulation through securities regulators. The U.S. is very much on the way. The U.K. is very much on the way, and other provinces are following suit. So regulation is the key. Once regulation is in place, things like that happened last year, like FTX collapse, stable coins falling, and things of those natures, that's this industry growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you, when you say Canada has regulation, and then you say something about the provinces, is there federal regulation in Canada and then different types of regulation within the provinces?
No, everything is provincially regulated here. So provincial securities regulators, they work together as Canadian securities administrators, but every province has its own regulator.
Okay. And is that, in your experience, has that been working well for us as Canadians, or is that been an hindrance? And I'd be interested to know that from the perspective of like a pro crypto person. You know what I mean? Not a pro regulation person.
Well, I want to stay on the regulator's good side. So I'm going to be careful how I word this. There are pluses and minuses to regulation on a federal level, as they do in the U.S. with the SEC, and at a provincial level like they do in Canada. I don't think one system is better than the other. The SEC seems like it's adopting regulation, but it's messy. Where in terms of the provinces, it's not perfect either. But, you know, I don't know if one system is better than the other, to be honest. They're both have flaws and they're both have good parts.
As regulation has changed, maybe one province changes regulation or the United States regulation shifts. How does Netcoins keep up with this? Because I can't imagine that it's very simple.
Yeah.
Like it must be shifting all the time, and you've got all these jurisdictions.
You really have to keep on top of press releases. You have to keep on top of the news. You have to keep on top of, you know, not only what's going on here in Canada, but what's going on in the U.S. and anywhere else we would want to operate.
So you don't just, so it's not like the government is sending you guys an email saying, hey, things are changing?
No. Well, if you subscribe to their newsletter.
Okay. And do they all, is that a thing? They all have a newsletter?
The good ones do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you still have to like kind of look for the information.
You do. You really have to keep on top of the news. I always have CNBC on the background or BNN Bloomberg all day. I work from home. So if I'm not in a meeting, it's on in the background, and I'll pay attention to what's on there while I'm working away.
So do you have a team of people to make sure that you guys are keeping up with the information?
Yeah. Currently the team is 4 people.
It doesn't seem like many.
No. No, it'll grow. I mean, we're just entering the U.S. We started in the U.S. in December of last year. I think we're at 13 states currently. We want to be at around 40 at the end of the year, 30. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a state that you're not allowed to use Netcoins at, what happens when I log in? Or is it when I make a username, that state isn't an option? Or how does that work?
Yeah. So when you have to sign up using ID, of course. If that ID is not in a state that we operate in, it just says, hey, we'll contact, or we're not in your state at the moment. If you want to be contacted when we are, join our mailing list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And how much work is it to get approved for a centralized exchange like yourself to get approved in a state? Is this weeks of filing paperwork?
Months. Yeah. So it depends on state, of course.
Okay.
Some states are easier than others. New York is probably the hardest one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And is the objective to open up more states just because of the volume of business you can achieve from a growth perspective?
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at the population in the U.S. versus here, it's 10 times, right?
Yeah.
And that is where the advantage is of the U.S. for sure.
The size of the market.
Yeah. Canada is limited in terms of its size.
Sure. Yeah, we're the same population of California or something like that.
That's right.
So when we look at cryptocurrencies, kind of moving away from Netcoins as a center point of the conversation, when we talk about cryptocurrencies and the usage of cryptocurrencies, what needs to happen, aside from regulation, for people to actually use cryptocurrencies, maybe like to use Bitcoin as a currency? Yeah. What do you think needs to happen in order for people to use that in their daily lives?
Well, first they need to trust it. And I think that's the evolution of where Bitcoin is going and other cryptos. People don't understand it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people still don't understand it. They hear the news, and the negative news is more prevalent than the positive, usually.
Yeah.
Especially over the last year. So people need to, as the industry evolves, people will trust it more, but the regulation is the key. Once regulation is in place, people will understand it. They'll get the value of what crypto is over fiat. The collapse of the banks over the last couple of months and the instability of the banks in the U.S. have brought people back, definitely.
So when we see instability in the financial system, it's interesting because you're like, well, instability brings people to crypto from the financial, from financiers, but stability within regulators brings people to cryptocurrency as well. So it's almost like you're saying, when the banks collapse, people don't trust them, so they move to crypto. But if the government doesn't have proper regulation, people don't trust crypto. So they kind of need regulation on one side and lack of trust on the other for this kind of this mathematical equation to come together for people to get into crypto.
Yeah, it's a funny system, eh? In Canada, banking is really strong. The banking problems are really, from what we see, U.S. specific, and they're the small banks. So they're regulated, of course. And it's funny that we need regulation in crypto, but we do, because the collapses and the problems with crypto over the last year really were due to lack of regulation.
Are regulators sophisticated enough, or can regulators keep up enough with crypto in order to offer a reasonable level of regulation?
Again, I have to be careful how I answer that one.
Yes, you do.
I think that this is a new space for regulators, and the lack of knowledge is a noted problem.
Right. Okay. So regulators are working hard to keep up with kind of the evolving market. I mean, it's hard. Like, I spend a lot of time in crypto stuff.
Yep.
And it is so difficult to keep up with all of the things that are happening, the new technologies that are happening, the new type of tokens that are being released, the new layer 1 blockchains and layer 2 blockchains that are coming out, and on it goes. And it's like, man, it is so difficult to figure out what's happening when you look at the whole ecosystem of Web3. So I kind of take the approach where I'm like, well, I kind of picked one. I'm like, I'm into Solana, so I'm going to know what's going on in Solana, because it's so hard to know what's happening everywhere all at once. And I can't imagine being a regulator, who probably are understaffed, that are trying to also keep up with all of these types of things in a much more in-depth way than I am.
Oh yeah, no, their job isn't easy, and we acknowledge that. I think we have a good relationship with our regulator, especially here in BC. We do definitely try to work with them. I do feel that they like to work with us. It is crypto is taking a lot of their time, notably. Crypto is a space that the people that work there, their experience isn't in crypto, so they're learning, and it's been a learning curve for them as well. But they're doing, I feel like they're being very fair, which is good.
Yeah. Is there anything other than regulation that you feel is important for adoption to occur, for more people to get on board with using, for example, Bitcoin as a currency?
No, regulation is what's going to create trust.
Okay. So trust is really at the center of the conversation here. Okay. So looking ahead, what do you think, where are we going to be in 3 or 5 years in crypto?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, the U.S. will be regulated, which is going to be a huge thing.
And you think that will bring more people in, not make people flee?
I do.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that happened last year won't happen.
Right.
FTX was because they weren't watched. Stable coins falling was because no one was watching them. If they're regulated, that stuff's not going to happen.
Right.
And, that really hurt reputational risk. So I think once those go away, then the industry is going to grow up. Those kind of players are going to go away. And I think our industry will thrive, actually, in 3 to 5 years, as people understand the technology more, what crypto can bring to people's lives, and just overall understanding the benefit over the risk.
Okay. I hear sometimes in Netcoin's communication that they are one of the only, or is it regulated exchanges in Canada? So you can operate as an exchange without being regulated, but you guys fall within some type of additional protection?
No. So we were one of the first registered, regulated by securities commissions exchanges in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're the second. There are other exchanges in Canada that are operating. They had to sign a memorandum of understanding with the securities commissions that they will get registered. There's 10 firms that are not currently registered, I believe, that have signed that memorandum. They had to sign it last month. So any company that's operating in Canada that either is not registered or has not signed that memorandum cannot legally operate here any longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I use, I don't know, Kraken or Binance or whatever, so you're referring to these types of exchanges. These exchanges have registered, or say they've signed the memorandum, but they may have not gone through the process yet.
Correct.
But they're going to be going through the process.
Yeah, and anyone that wants to see that list can go to the Canadian Securities Administrators website.
Okay.
And it shows who's registered first and then who has signed that memorandum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've used a lot of centralized exchanges over the years, various different ones. And in the last year, there have been a couple that have said, we don't serve Canadians anymore. Mm-hmm. And is that because they were unwilling to sign the memorandum?
Correct.
And why would they not have wanted to sign the memorandum?
Some of the things that they may have been offering, like futures contracts or leverage, which leverage was just borrowing money to buy coins. That's not an option anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the regulators have said you can't do all of these things on your exchange in Canada. Here's the products you can offer, and these are limited to a handful of more conservative.
Right. So the regulation is going to evolve. There's no question. It's just starting. Some of the things that those companies did offer, I think they will come back. But,
really?
But at the moment, the regulators have said, okay, we're kind of looking at these things, and if you're doing these things in Canada, you cannot do them anymore. Mm. The companies that have left have said, okay, well, it's a small country, 35 million. Mm-hmm. Is it really worth our time and money and whatever if we can't do what we want to do with our business plan? So they've left.
I see. Yeah. And what about decentralized exchanges? And what is the relationship with decentralized exchanges and regulators?
Well, they don't.
They don't have one?
I don't think they have a relationship.
And I guess then regulators can't stop decentralized exchanges from existing.
They can try, but I mean,
it'd be very difficult.
Yeah, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of them operating out there that they can try to catch them all, but it's impossible. It's much like online gambling, right? Online gambling, there's so many online gambling sites that operate illegally. The response was in each province to make online gambling legal. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully the people that were gambling illegal will come and use our product.
I see.
So in BC, they've done that, and it's worked, I think. People are using less illegal gambling now. So once there's a list of centralized regulated exchanges, probably people will use those more,
right?
Because they're less risky,
right,
than those decentralized exchanges.
For those who don't want to be, for those who are kind of leery of being tracked by the government, mm-hmm. they're going to use a centralized exchange.
Yep.
Is there a risk for those types of people to use a centralized exchange that has been regulated versus one of the ones which is only signed the memorandum at this time and isn't currently regulated?
So is the question, if you're a criminal and you're trying to hide money, is it better to use it decentralized or?
I mean, I think what you said earlier, not everybody who wants to be, not everybody who's leery of being tracked it's not always because of criminal activity. Yeah. Some people are just really concerned about their privacy for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So let's say we're talking about those types of people.
Yeah. So centralized for people that just want to protect privacy and they're not doing anything shady. Yeah. No, centralized is great. Come to us.
Yeah.
People that want to buy stuff on the dark web or do all kinds of stuff. No, they're better off at decentralized.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're not going to. I mean, the way that we met each other was through the RCMP officer that I interviewed on the podcast maybe a month ago, and that was a fascinating conversation to learn about kind of the criminal underbelly of all kinds of aspects of
of crypto. And obviously everybody knows it's there, but it's interesting to hear from an RCMP officer who's doing the investigations into this kind of stuff, you know, how big it is and how common it is, how complicated or how simple it is to do this. But you as a centralized exchange offer a solution for law-abiding citizens to get into crypto in a simple way. Now, I use Netcoins and have used Netcoins for, I don't really know, maybe 3 years, I'm not really sure, but a number of years. And I have always found it a simple way for me to get my money into the system and for me to buy crypto. And that on-ramp has been great for me and for lots of people, for all the students that I've been teaching as well. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Any thoughts, anything that you feel is important for listeners to get an understanding of when it comes to compliance?
Anybody that's using an exchange, whether it's us or other exchanges, the onboarding process and then the compliance processes from a client perspective can be annoying. So when you're onboarding, there's a number of questions that you're asked. I think with us, there's 17, which for a lot of people may seem annoying. People do need, I hope they understand that this is a regulation thing. We've been told we need this. We do need this so we can know who's onboarding and that this product is not wrong for certain people.
Right.
So people that get annoyed with compliance processes, please understand why they're there.
Yeah.
We are trying to protect people and we're trying to safeguard people's money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Mike, I really appreciate this. This has been a super interesting and helpful conversation to understand compliance. I don't think it's an area that a lot of people know much about or even think about. So I appreciate you being with me here today.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Okay.